Hello and welcome to the White Collar Fitness Radio, the ultimate podcast for professionals striving to achieve optimal performance in today's fast-paced age. I'm your host, Bruno Dalladoni, online body transformation specialist and founder of The Health Coach Fitness. I'm here to help you optimize your health and fitness, even if you're short on time. What's up, everybody? Today we are discussing protein intake. So we're going to cover all the basics, everything you need to know, and give you some takeaway points that you can actually apply. Obviously, protein is everywhere. Everyone's discussing it. You go to the shops and you can even buy protein Weetabix these days. So we're covering off all the basics, everything you need to know, in hopefully a pretty simple, actionable way. So let's start at the beginning. How much do you need? So for ease of maths, a really good starting point is if you work in pounds, do 1 gram per pound of body weight. And if you work in kilos, do 2 grams per kilo of body weight. So if you weigh, let's say, 160 pounds, then do 160 grams of protein. And if you weigh 80 kilos, do 160 grams of protein. Hopefully that makes some sense. And obviously, if you want to go into a little bit more depth, reach out. I do have a calorie and macro calculator we can talk about. But as a starting point, work on that. 1 gram per pound or 2 grams per kilo. Amazing. So that's how much. What then is protein? So again, we're not going to go into the real nitty-gritty of it all because, to be honest, you just don't need it. But it's safe to say that when you digest protein, it breaks down into these little things called amino acids. Now, if you haven't come across them before, you might have seen BCAAs or EAAs, and those are branched chain amino acids. It's a good starting point. Branched chain amino acids. Now that was really difficult to get out. I haven't had to say the whole thing, I don't know, for at least 5 years. So you got that out of me. Or essential amino acids, EAAs. So you might have come across those. Now, you don't really need to know about amino acids, but it's good to have a baseline knowledge that your body uses amino acids for everything, like all the things. And I will go so far as to say that everything, all the things that you are protein in one form or another that are built out of amino acids. So, for example, red blood cells, protein. White blood cells, protein. Hair's protein, eyeballs are protein, nails are protein, skin is protein, muscle tissues, clearly protein. Neurotransmitters, protein, or have amino acids involved, or have nitrogen involved. And nitrogen is found in protein. Protein, in fact, is the only macronutrient that contains nitrogen. So what is protein? Protein is one of the 3 macronutrients, the other 2 clearly being fat and carbohydrates. But protein is the only one that has nitrogen, and it breaks down into amino acids. So that gives you a little bit of an overview about what protein actually is. So where can you find them? Protein sources, obviously we have to break them down into either plant-based or animal-based. And your plant-based proteins, we have to have extra considerations with. And there's 2 things for us to bear in mind. One, most plant-based proteins try saying that fast 3 times, aren't complete proteins. Now, what does that mean, you might ask? And what it means is that a complete protein has all amino acids. It has all the essential amino acids. It has the rest of them. So when we were talking about amino acids a second ago, there's 20 of them. A complete protein has all of them. Okay. An incomplete protein has at least one essential amino acid missing. Now, what is an essential amino acid, you might ask? And an essential amino acid is basically one that your body can't make itself. So your body is obviously very intelligent. It can take raw material and make random stuff. Essential things, when we're talking nutritionally, whenever you see the word essential, it basically means that your body can't make it. So you've heard of essential fatty acids, for example, omega-3s. Your body can't make those either. So essential amino acids, your body can't make them. So an incomplete protein is a protein that doesn't have at least one of those amino acids. Okay, so that's one consideration for your plant-based proteins. Now, normally you can counteract that by having a combination of grains and pulses. So grains being, for example, rice, bulgur wheat, pearl barley, anything like that. And then your pulses being your beans, your peas, things like chickpea, whatever, stuff like that. Okay. So normally, if you mix them together, you get roughly a complete protein. Normally, it works out fine. But then that brings us to our next point of consideration, which is it's very difficult to get how would you say, an isolated protein source from plants. And what I mean by that is that, for example, if you think animal-based protein and you think a lean chicken breast, most of that chicken breast is in fact protein. Or maybe you think eggs. Well, if you take the yolk out, all the egg white is in fact protein. Okay, so it's very easy to get just isolated protein sources when we're talking about animal protein sources. When we are talking plant-based protein, you have a lot more carbohydrates. So if you're having beans, for example, yes, beans are great for protein, but they also have a load of carbohydrates that go with that. The other thing to consider is when we are eating a lot of plant food, the residue, that's the technical term, that will be your fiber, is very high. So you could find a scenario where you end up eating too much fiber, not going to the toilet for number 2 for a while because you've basically bunged yourself up because you're trying to hit your protein target and you basically ate 6 kilos of beans. So probably not a good idea. Probably something to just bear in mind. Now, I said earlier that most plant-based protein sources are incomplete. The one that we know that is in fact complete is tofu. So tofu is great. Now, consideration to have with tofu, as I was saying, is that it has a bit more fat than potentially you'd like, but it is a bit of a leaner, sort of almost slightly more isolated protein source that is complete and is obviously plant-based. So, okay, hopefully plant-based proteins now are a little bit clearer. Animal-based protein. So meat, fish, poultry, other seafood, whatever, anything like that, obviously tends to be very high in protein, depending what you get in terms of your meat cuts or what fish you get or what part of the bird you get. Your meat will be either slightly leaner or slightly fattier. For example, lamb is very fatty, whereas venison is very lean. All that stuff makes sense. All that stuff I won't sort of just regurgitate for the sakes of it because, I like to think we all have two brain cells to rub together. Now, animal-derived products such as dairy, eggs, stuff like that, obviously also tends to be a very good source of protein. The only thing for us to pay attention to with this, the same as plant-based protein, is the added extras that you get with it. For example, if you're having yogurt, and a quick note on yogurt is great if it's actual yogurt. Anything that's style is rubbish. Throw in the bin, set it alight. Yeah, trash. Don't buy it, it's a waste of money. So if you see Greek style yogurt, honestly, just throw a tantrum, smash it on the floor. Whereas actual Greek yogurt or actual Icelandic yogurt, that skyr stuff, or actual natural live yogurt, all that stuff is great and it has pretty good protein content. The thing for us to pay attention to is whether it's lean or not. So are you getting the fat-free stuff? Are you not? Because that will have a big impact on, obviously, the calorie content of each portion of how much stuff you're eating. So I'm not saying it's good. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying those are considerations for us to have when you get that. The same with, for example, cheese. Cheese can be a great source of protein, assuming it's lower fat cheese. Even potentially higher fat cheese. Again, I'm not saying it's good or it's bad. It's just something for you to bear in mind when you're looking at those things. Eggs, again, egg yolk is basically fat. Egg white is basically protein. So, again, just things to bear in mind, things to pay attention to. What I'm obviously trying to do with this is just give you guys a little bit of clarity so that you know what you're looking at when you're looking at it. And then the next bit for us to discuss really is supplements. People tend to think of whey protein, so protein shakes, for example, as a supplement, and they can be, but I'd actually prefer you to think of whey protein as food. So you can use whey as food. You can get different types of let's say, dairy-derived protein. So whey is one. Casein is another. Casein is a lot slower to digest, so tends to be quite good if you're going to bed, so at night, it's an idea. You can obviously get vegan protein powders, plant-based protein powders these days. All of that stuff is very good. Things I suppose I'd be remiss if I didn't cover are these. If you're dairy intolerant, then you can get yourself whey protein that's hydrolyzed and isolate. So whey isolate hydrolyzed whey isolate, whichever way you find it on the internet, that there's a high likelihood that will get around your lactose intolerance. Whey is obviously, I suppose, the industry standard. One, it's very quickly digested and absorbed. Two, it's fairly cheap. So yes, have a look at that if you have sort of lactose intolerance. Otherwise, you can go down the plant-based route, although I have to say, personally, I think I would rather lick dust than have vegan protein. Not because it's vegan, but because it's vegan. Because it tastes nasty. It's horrid. But some people like it. And I work with a girl who swears by her vegan stuff. So obviously, like any of these things, it's all personal preference. But like I say, for me, would rather lick a monkey's ass than have that. So last but not least, word of caution, don't have BCAAs. It's a waste of money. The marketing department of all these supplement companies has done a great job marketing that stuff, but it's honest, a waste of money. If you have enough protein in your diet, you don't need them. And if you really wanted to supplement with just, sort of the straight amino acids, as it were, then get yourself essential amino acids, EAAs. It's a little bit better value for money. BCAAs, otherwise, it's literally just a waste of cash. So that's it from me today, guys. As always, if you found this helpful, like, share, subscribe, send it to your friends, spread it around the office. Be that person who everybody talks to about the podcast. Rate it 5 stars as always, and I'll catch you next time.